Oh, hey guys, fellow gamer here, and if there's 3 things I love, they're video games, useless crap, and the Haitian Revolution of 1791, so video game merchandise is basically a dream for me. Merriam-Webster defines memorabilia as things that stir recollection, or are valued or collected for their association with a particular field or interest. I define it as half my goddamn bedroom. Personally, I've always found game memorabilia to be pretty cool. I mean, who wouldn't want 2 Ahead in Time posters in their bedroom? Arsonists? There's so many great ways to display your love for a game. Nowadays, companies slap their game's logo and characters on everything. And I mean everything. I can hardly walk 5 feet in a Walmart without seeing Mario's face on something. The collectibles market has been extremely popular and has grown to be nearly as big as the games they're based off of. However, this hasn't always been the case. The game merchandise craze is a very recent one. Back in the day, you would have to search pretty hard for collectibles, provided they even existed at all. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the collectibles of yesteryear to see exactly how we got to where we are now. Let's start in the 1970s, where the first instance of game merchandise can be seen with Atari. Now, at the time, Atari was the biggest developer and publisher of games in the world. Their arcade games were extremely popular, and their console, the Atari 2600, had made its way into millions of homes. Their success was unprecedented, and they knew they needed to capitalize on it. So what'd they do? That's right, just a magazine. Keep in mind, this is the 1970s. People saw video games either as a novelty or a toy to keep their kids occupied. No one was buying stuff based off of games. And even if they were, how do you make something people actually want to buy that's based off of this? Atari just released a magazine to keep consumers informed of upcoming releases, and then just called it a day. Not all was lost, though. Activision, a third-party developer for the 2600, helped pick up the slack a little by releasing cloth patches for each of their games. Players who obtained a certain high score in each game could take a picture of it, mail it off, and Activision in turn would send them back a patch. This idea was so cool, and the patches themselves also looked pretty neat. Some contained art based off the game, while others were designed to look like real military patches. I wonder if I could sneak into the next Veterans meeting with this. Anyway, apart from that, the only other things from this era that could even be considered memorabilia were store displays and contest prizes. Some of these are actually really cool, but they weren't available to the general public, so I'm not counting them. If there was ever going to be real game memorabilia, then it was clear a title would have to come out that was not only insanely popular, but also had marketable characters in it. Alas, neither Atari nor Activision ever managed to produce such a title, and as the years went by, it seemed like no company ever would. That was until the year 1980, when Namco released a little game known as Pac-Man, and oh wow, that's a swerve. This party in pizza was on shirts, hats, TV trays, plushies. Pac-Man was everywhere. There was even a chart-topping song written about him called Pac-Man Fever. You could fill an entire book with all the merch that was released, and oh wow, they did. Wait, there was Pac-Man pasta? Things were getting insane, and it seemed like they were going to stay that way. I mean, it was the 80s. Nothing bad ever happened in the 80s, and oh no. Yeah, in 1983, the infamous video game crash took the wind out of game merch's sales pretty fast. Now, there have been entire books dedicated to the crash, so I don't have time to explain it in detail here. For now, all you need to know is that the industry's growth had stagnated, and many people began to view games as a passing fad rather than a long-term interest. Now, this affected home consoles far more than it did arcades, so it wasn't enough to kill Pac-Man's popularity completely, but it did hamper it. For a while, the future of games was uncertain, and it began to seem like people were right about them only being a trend. I mean, for 2 seconds anyway. Now, the game crash hadn't affected Japan the same way it had the US, and Nintendo started making a killing by selling their new system, the Famicom. However, only a couple years later, Nintendo looked across the sea at the US, squinted a bit, said what the heck are they doing, and handed us the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, this system was a redesigned version of the Famicom that they had in Japan, and it not only brought us out of the crash, but it made gaming more popular than it had ever been. It was able to do all of this largely because of one game. A game that was immensely successful in Japan and would turn into a worldwide hit. A game which nearly single-handedly saved all of gaming. The NES's killer app. That's right, it's Hogan's Alley! Fine, I'll talk about Mario. Super Mario Bros. Had come out in Japan earlier that year, and had been an instant success. With its release on the NES, that success turned global. Mario merch started being produced by the barrel. There were the usual suspects, of course, of figures, shirts, plushes, and board games, but there was also a lot more weirder stuff. Sponges, Christmas ornaments, sheet music, even furniture. And Mario was only the beginning. Games were back and bigger than ever. Series like Zelda, Metroid, Mega Man, Sonic, and many more got their own corresponding memorabilia. But there was one change this time. You see, Pac-Man was designed to be enjoyed by pretty much anyone, and the Atari 2600 was such a novelty at the time that appealed to both adults and kids. However, with the introduction of the NES, games and their memorabilia started being targeted almost exclusively at kids. Now, that's not to say that there weren't adults that really enjoyed these games, but the majority of the population just thought of them as little more than toys. And because of that, there was almost no merchandise for grown adults that loved games. For the most part, game companies leaned into this kid-friendly image. Nintendo in particular had strict regulations on what they would allow in their games, and made sure that they were kid-friendly. Sega was a bit looser on their rules, however they tightened them right up after Congress threatened to get involved, but I digress. For a long while, things would stay the same, with little to no options for adults that wanted to show their love for gaming. It wasn't until the 90s that a new company would enter the console wars, and finally shake up the status quo with a console aimed at older players. No, it's not the CDI. Sony's PlayStation released in 1994, and it sought to fill what it saw as a hole in the market. You see, in the past, companies refused to allow mature games onto their systems out of fear of repercussions from parents and the government. However, what also happened in 1994 was the establishment of the ESRB. The ESRB gave each game a rating based off what age group it was appropriate for. Parents could view this rating and see what their kids were getting, while stores knew which games were mature now, and they would refuse to sell these games to kids. This meant mature games could be published without the risk of kids playing them. This didn't immediately lead to much adult memorabilia, but it did do one important thing. In the past, players would often quit the hobby as they grew older, since there were just no games they were really interested in playing anymore. However, by offering mature titles, the PlayStation was able to keep these people into gaming, and by doing this, they helped grow the industry. As the industry grew, the amount of gaming memorabilia gradually went up as well. Now, it still wasn't exactly popular, but it was growing at a steady, if slow pace. Then it all blew up. In the late 2000s, game memorabilia started appearing like crazy. You start being able to find merchandise for tons of games all over. And this trend only continued, with merchandise becoming more and more readily available. Now, here we are in the year 2021, and there's a million different game collectibles from any game you can think of. We really have come a long way. In the 1990s, you had to sell 1 million copies plus your soul to even have a prayer at getting a t-shirt. Now even Bugsnax gets a full merch line. I mean, it's freaking Bugsnax! But what started all of this really was that initial explosion. And one can only wonder what caused it. Now, I'm no economist, I'm just an idiot with a camera, but I have a couple theories to what occurred. To start off with, gamers had grown up. Only physically, I assure you. The average gamer was now in their 20s or 30s. These older players had more disposable income and could therefore afford to buy more Yoshi bikinis than little Timmy could ever hope to. In addition, online shopping had grown exponentially. While it existed in the late 90s and early 2000s, many people either didn't know about it or didn't trust it. Eventually, thanks to companies like PayPal and Amazon, online shopping grew not only to be widely accepted, but also became many people's primary method for commerce. This gave companies a space to sell products they thought would be too niche for a retail environment. Companies like Fangamer and IM8bit were created especially to sell gaming goods. These sites specialized on collector's items and offered expensive, high-quality products. They were extremely successful, and more sites like them started popping up. Eventually, big stores like Walmart and Target saw their success and started stocking memorabilia themselves. But I would say, by far, the biggest factor in this explosion was YouTube and other social media. People who love games were able to talk to each other, share their love, and find out about new games at a rate that was unprecedented before. Games began to go viral from YouTubers creating content on them, and one of the best examples of this has gotta be Minecraft. What started out as a small indie game created by one man quickly grew into the best-selling game of all time, largely because of all the free publicity it received. With this radical success came potential for merchandising, and oh god did they take advantage of that potential. We're talking everything: t-shirts, creeper hoodies, plushes, action figures, Lego sets, blind boxes, foam pickaxe, foam swords, you name it, there was probably something with Minecraft on it. This was the first time I remember seeing a game that had this much merch. But you know, it wouldn't be the last. Other game companies took note of Minecraft's radical success with its merchandise, and, well, the rest is really just history. So that was a short look at the history of gaming merchandise, and honestly, I just think it's so cool that there's so many different ways to show off your love for a specific game or series. No matter what you like, there's something out there for you. Heck, I didn't even get a chance to talk about handmade items, convention exclusives, limited releases, collector's edition, subscription boxes. There's a lot to unpack here. But I'll save all those topics for future videos. For now, just know this. We are living in an era of endless possibilities. Our wildest dreams are starting to become realities. If you put your mind to it and work hard, you can do just about anything. And if you ever doubt this, if you ever doubt that anything is possible, just remember this. Even Bugsnax got a merch line.